Hi, everyone. Welcome to Foundry Virtual Events. We're really pleased to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining. While we waited off stage, we were looking at all the folks who are joining. We could see you in the People tab, and that was quite exciting to see how many amazing customers from across all of our products are here today, as well as a lot of our Foundry team. My name is Jen Goldfinch. I'm the Director of Field Marketing for Foundry, and I'm based here in Montreal. So feel free to let us know in the chat where you're dialing in from. We're really excited about today's session. We have Jordan Gary here from the Foundry Katana team. Abel will be joining us shortly from Vancouver. And we're really excited to be showing you some amazing work that the team's been doing with Katana. And we're so proud to be launching Katana 4.0 in this webinar today. The team's going to take you through some really exciting updates and really exciting news about the product. We've been doing virtual events. Actually, the very first virtual event we did on March 30th was with Katana, so it's quite nice today to kind of round that out. We've done 40 events, virtual events since March 30th. So they're all available on demand. You can find them on our Livestorm app, and you get the full event. We also have them on our YouTube channel where they've all been subtitled, so you can find them within the playlists. We have a lot coming up. We have one en français next week, so if anyone's interested in hearing about Katana in French, our team's going to be presenting that with Stim Studios based in Paris, so we're very excited for that, so make sure to sign up. And then we have a couple of Nuke events coming up where we're working on episodic animation, so that's going to be great for any of you out there who are using Nuke and want to hear more about some of the new features for episodic. And we also have a great session with Pedro from DNEG on CompLayer. And then we have the rounding out our Moto 14 series, a great webinar that the Moto team is planning. So all these you can join from our virtual events page. We'd love to have you there. We've been posting a lot of content to our Foundry Learn page. So there's some really great videos on Katana 4.0. We've got some really amazing new work on Mari and digital cinematography. So please take a look at all these amazing new content pieces that we've added to our Learn page, all to help you get onboarded onto the products and the different workflows that we're working with. We have our Insights Hub that we feature a lot of our different artists out there and our technologists that we work with. So there's some great stories on the Katana side. There's a beautiful story about this gorgeous Chinese animated project called White Snake. So highly encourage you to take a look at it. And we have some new artist spotlights and we have some new ones coming up. So we would love you to take a look at that. There's some great content that we have available to share on our Insights Hub. You can follow us on social if you want to know more about the content that we have and the webinars that we're doing, and just pretty much what's going on at Foundry. We're pretty consistent across all platforms, so follow us on the platform of your choice and you'll be able to keep up to date with all the great things that we have going on. Just want to thank our amazing customers. You guys are the best, guys and gals. Sorry. You guys are awesome out there, and everyone who's contributed. We've had so many customers speak on the different panels. If anyone out there is interested on speaking on a panel or has an idea, feel free to ping us. We'll share our virtual events email with you. And yeah, we encourage ideas. We'd love to hear back. We're going to be doing a survey after, so please tell us what you think. We do these for you, and anything we can do to improve them and make them more engaging for you, we'd love to hear your thoughts. With that, I am going to say welcome to Katana 4.0, and I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Jordan.
Okay, thank you very much, Jen. And everybody, thank you for joining us. And Abel, glad you can get through our mysterious system. The Livestorm system is very cool, but it definitely throws a couple of hooks at you occasionally. All right, so what are we going to do tonight? We were last with you in July. We revealed what Katana 4 was going to be. We talked a lot about the various sort of features that were underway. We couldn't, at that point, tell you everything that we were up to. So we're going to spend more time tonight on the things that we didn't show rather than the things that we did show. But there's a lot of great information out there. The marketing team, working with Abel, did a lot of great material, and so you've got all the tutorials, you've got all the the marketing materials, you've got a brand new website. So if you want to dive into all the details of all the things, then we got you covered. Tonight we're going to spend the next half an hour, 40 minutes going through the next things. So let's see if technology is going to be kind, and I will get up a little screen share. Okay, let's see what we got going on. So yes, welcome to, let's see if it's going to behave. Yes, it is. So this is the big night, Katana 4.0. And, for me, this is really an awesome night. So many people over the years have contributed so much to getting Katana here. Facebook, being Facebook, reminded me actually that this, to the day, it's been about 5 years since I joined the Katana team. And it has been a privilege and an amazing adventure to basically, help the team and work with everybody building this tool for artists out there. So where did we go? What has this 5-year journey been like? So really, there was a phase where we would call it like laying the technical foundation. We were doing the Windows port, building the Viewer API. And it was really back in that sort of 2015, 2016, and 17 that a lot of foundations were laid for what you see today. And it's really exciting that we can we're finally putting this out there for you in the way that we envisioned it back then. I will say that this is only the beginning. I will hopefully be able to have a meeting with you all in 2021 and share with you ideas and the work that we'll be doing with the team, and have you tell us that really 2021, apart from the world being different, not being 2020, that the work that we're doing is even more exciting than Katana 4. Because believe it or not, we do have some of those crazy plans that will make it such. All right, so if we fast forward a bit, we then went through a phase where we were really building up the tools for artists. So it was really about looking at what could we do? What could we build on that foundation? So taking the awesome shading system that sings out of Katana, but giving you a new UI. So that's what we started with 3.2. 3.5, we looked at the performance and the multi-threading, putting in the monitor layer in its first form, which was the foundation for the lighting tools that you see today. 3.6, again, more work, the network material edit, replacing the network material parameter edit and the network material splice, adding in snapping, again, a big building block for the lighting tools that we revealed in July. The dockable UI being the first part of a major transformation to the UI. And then we get to Katana 4. It has been absolutely fantastic. And you can see just from the scale of the list of features that it was a lot of work put in by a lot of people, a lot of blood, sweat, and mental tears over getting this one done. And then, I want to give a big shout out to the team. They really adjusted incredibly well to all the situations that we've all gone through in 2020. And this release was predominantly developed completely remotely. And in some ways, it actually helped when it came to testing the remote rendering features of Katana 4 side. But a real big kudos goes to the Katana team for not missing the beat, adjusting to working from home like everybody else, and delivering, frankly, the best Katana version that we've ever shipped to date. All right, so if we look back at what were we really trying to achieve, we had this tool that was built on the premise of scalability, tackling the biggest projects, making it easy to just dig into these incredibly complex problems. And so we had this tool that was ready for that. We had a tool that was built around diving into all the gory details of a scene. You want to know what attributes are on a point? We can tell you. Wasn't necessarily the tool, as we've discussed before, that was ready for an artist to do something very creative. Creative work was done in it, but creative work was done in Katana in the past, accepting the limitations around the creative workflow because what it brought to the table. Well, Katana 4 is one of those things where it was the next step forward, where we started thinking in new ways and built up through a series of steps to this moment today, where we're talking to you about Katana 4, which has a beautiful new UI. So this is one of our design mockups, but let's take a look at a few things that Gary and Abel will take you through. So we rebuilt the bridge between Katana and Hydra so that we can give you a full PBR viewport with lights and shadows and shaders. We put in a lighting tool set built on top of a monitor layer that allows you to actually do very precise and creative lighting. And frankly, if you haven't had a chance to try Katana 4, I really encourage you, try lighting something the old way, making a light, moving a light, placing it, refining, rinse, repeat, and then try it with the Katana lighting tools. You will never want to go back. From the first moment, the first prototype the guys delivered, Gary and I and the team were just like, you can't go back. It was all in. Then also on to all the great work the team have done, making ready the network material edit. And this is significant because it provides you a complete what you see is what you get environment for making procedural look development modifications, either in look development or in shot production. But the consistency of going from look development through into shot production, seeing the same thing, is right there and ready for you. And then finally, making things scalable, building out systems that allow for massively efficient look development. If you can actually consume multiple renders of your asset that you're working on from multiple camera angles, even under multiple lighting conditions, from multiple frames and a turntable, it's your choice. But we can give you the ability to see all the information you need all at the same time, making the right choice, knowing that you've done it and it's not going to be any surprises. And then extending that into shot production. So Katana has been the king of sequence-based lighting for a long time. And being able to bring that to the next level where you can actually work across multiple shots all at the same time, you can scale this up into immense levels of shots if you use remote machines. So really, this is sort of all this coming together in one release is something that is really exciting for us. Okay, so this is where I'm going to turn it over to Gary, and he's going to start walking you through the details. And then as we get through each section, we'll have a quick conversation between Gary, Abel, and myself as to what does the significance of all this work mean.
So let's, starting with the viewer, one of the things we've added is a new image-based selection mode inside the viewer. Now, there used to be one with the old monitor layer, but the UI for that wasn't kind of up to speed, and this idea of bringing everything into the viewer so an artist can just work full screen and interact with the image a lot closer. What's really nice about this, as you just saw, is there's no geometry in here right now. You're literally just interacting with the image directly. And here you can use it to actually bring geometry in. That image could have been recorded from yesterday, could be recorded remotely. You don't even have to bring geometry actually into the application to enable you to interact with some of the tools inside Katana. So really, really useful. Next section of work is we're going to look at the lighting tools all inside the viewer, but one particular part that we've added to the monitor layer to go with that works really, really well. And that's the ability to now do region of interests inside the viewer with the monitor layer. So here you can see we're trying to get that little bit of a ping just exactly where you want it on a car. So moving the lighting, using the new lighting tools. So you're just looking at the final consumption of the image, using the arrowhead to move the light around, trying to get the kind of figure, that kind of highlight that you want. You can see it just with the region of interest, or you can then go and reset it and go back, have a look at what it looks like with all of the lighting in context. And if you're not happy, go back, use the region of interest, try again, see what you can get. Let's try it over on the right-hand side. No, don't like that too much. That's got the background. No, we don't want to do that. How about we try something a little bit different and maybe try one of the other lighting modes? So here we're going to move over to just using the reflection-based mode. Go across the top. That's close, nearly there. What about, oh yes, that's the kind of ping that I'm looking for. So then when you're done, go back full screen, have a look at what it looks like, and then go back to having a look at the full lighting. Really makes that kind of fine control all full screen, not having to use any of the UX or UI elements from any other tabs, really just getting to grips with getting that lighting exactly where you want it. And that's just with the region of interest combined with some of the other elements. Other thing that we've done, PBR shading inside the viewport. Jordan mentioned it briefly, but what we've actually done is we've rewritten the whole bridge from the Katana attributes into how it actually gets into Hydra. Here we're using HD Storm to get that first look of that asset, what it looks like. Dial it in, try to get something that's going to give you a really good first look. You can even use the lighting tools, use the USD Lux based lights to get that first position of where the lights are. So you can start doing the first pass of your lighting as well. All really, really useful stuff. Another thing is you don't have to use one or the other. Here, what we're actually going to show you is combining the monitor layer, where we're only actually rendering the lion, with a GL representation of the light that's sitting on the environment. So think about this. It's got an alpha around the lion. You're moving, doing your lighting. Maybe that's what you care about most of all. It's a lot faster because all you're actually displaying here and doing the calculations for is the actual lion. You're getting a first approximation of where the shadows are using the working sets on the environment. And then when you're ready, you can just toggle the environment back on with the working set, see what it actually looks like with the full-on render. Real gives you that fine-grained control of what you want to, working efficiently on just the bit that you care about. Muting, soloing lights, and getting the best benefit for kind of achieving that light and look that you want while being really efficient, especially with really, really complicated and heavy scenes. You can see you've got a nice soft light sitting on the environment right now because this is the full render. If you actually take that off and take the environment and just go back to the GL representation of it, you can see you're getting a very close approximation of where that shadow is actually falling. So really helps you to fine grain and pick which part you care about just for efficiency and getting that being as efficient as possible.
Okay, so let's sort of move on to look development. Just conscious of time, I think we'll spend a little bit more time at the end doing the full conversation about all of these things, because I think we can wrap it all up into one big conversation. So look development is another key area that we did a lot of work in. And I think it spanned a number of releases, but everything coming together inside of Katana 4 really puts Katana into a really sort of beautiful position for how it can help artists get through their day. And really all this work is about getting you guys away from your desks at a decent hour, allowing you the freedom to do the things that you love. We all got involved in production because we love it, not because the hours are easy. But if you could do something that you love and maintain the hours that are sort of ideal for a good quality of life, then let's do it. Okay, so back to you, Gary.
Yeah, so what we're going to have a look at here is one of the other new features in Katana 4.0. So building on the great work from 3.2 onwards with the network material create and the network material edit nodes that were done previously, what you can now do in the network material create node is you can actually have multiple network materials in that one node, and you can group them how you like. In this shot, which I think Abel takes a lot of the credit for, the look development for this is actually sitting inside the one network material create. So here we can have a look at a number of different variants of the robot. They're all grouped up. They're all set in there. They're not actually creating different locations. This is actually being kind of switched and interacted with inside the network material create. So here you can see those variation switches. But it's not just, these variations could be multiple materials that are exported and being switched on outside if you wanted. The choice is up to you on how you actually want to work. But what we've also got in here is other elements of network materials as well, the set look development. You've also got things like some of the lighting, the glass, all of that. However you want to group it, all of this could be based around a particular shot or sequence, and all of the network materials for that could be grouped. It's just up to you. It's just a great kind of tool of being able to share things like masks and ISOs or however you want to do it. Just keep them all as a logical grouping together. The next section here is about kind of One of the things that we've done is we've laid a lot of groundwork for enabling you to do USD export, to be able to build nodes around the look, file, bake that you actually want to use. Here we're going to use, we've brought in a payload, just an asset. We've done some basic look development with it, just having a look at it across a number of different lights. Then when we're happy with it, we can just click a baking process and export it and send that out as an additional USD layer. And then when we are ready, we can test that that works fine. So here we go, just going to click the right node, export that out. What that's actually done is we can move over and have it what it looks like in context. So initially, just had no look on it, just a basic USD asset. If we go to the USDA that's bringing that in, change that empty blank look dev, and change it to the one that we've just written out, refresh it inside Katana, and you can see we now have built a USD asset that we can then move to the rest of the pipeline, use it however we like. And that's really powerful, helps Katana with moving that into an export space where you can now interact with any of the other applications that are USD friendly. Another thing that we've managed to do, you can see on the left-hand side, we've got a PBR version in the viewer, and we've also got a live render going on inside from 3Delight in this case. In the node graph, you can see that we've got this same material that we did in the previous one, brought back in, all of those exact same, same shader, but I've added a 3Delight material. What I'm pointing out here is the new filtering that we've actually introduced with disconnected nodes. You can see it really easy, highlights with the red. This is all procedural overrides that you can just see at a real quick, easy glance. The yellow shows that we've actually made some edits to that node. Green are brand new nodes that we brought in and we're playing around with. You could see that I was just having a look at the lighting, the comparison between a GL representation and a 3Delight version of the render. Now I'm adding the diffuse material from that was being used on the USD preview surface into the 3Delight render and having a look at what that looks like. So you can see these procedural overrides based on things that have been brought in from previous look dev. This is all a USD asset that we brought in. It's got layout in a procedural way. And then you could also just now make another override and export that as a new USD layer if you wanted to move it down the pipeline. Really powerful procedural workflows, and you can start building up kind of faster and iterative ways in your pipeline using these tools.
Okay. And then we'll spend some time in looking at lighting. This is the part that we spent a lot of time on the last time, so we'll go through this a bit quicker. But the guys have done a fantastic job getting this polished up and tested, and as you can see, making it very friendly for tablet-based workflows. So over to you, Gary.
Yeah, so for those of you that didn't make the Foundry Live event that we had when we first announced this, just a quick rundown. Here you can see these are the different ways you can actually place lights. They're naturally grouped. So there's things like normal, specular, and reflection when you actually want to place a light based on how it's going to hit a surface. Do you want to use the normal, specular, or the reflection vector of that particular surface? There's the shadow placement mode, which is really great when what you actually care about is where the shadow is actually going to fit. And then there's kind of the using that snapping tool set that we built earlier on. And when you want to place lights as if they're practical lights in the set, it's a really great example with some of the learning material that Abel did on the website that shows you using that snapping set for just placing a lot of practical lights really quickly, really fast with this. So I recommend you go over and have a look at that and just see how awesome that can be when you start using those tools all combined. Here's, we can see we've got the kind of UI that pops up when you've got selected lights. You can build, you can see you don't have to go to any other tool. You can build on this. You can add additional parameters to this tool set. Makes everything really nice, really simple, right in front of the fingertips of the artist. Don't have to leave when you're trying to create that creative image. And then on top of that, you can see you can target. One of those great things in Katana is you can do sequence-based lighting, and then you can make shot-based overrides. All of these tools, you can actually target exactly where you want to put those particular changes that you're working on. Makes it really, really powerful, and you never have to leave the UI when you're doing all of this, which is great. Just a quick video from a kind of an over-the-shoulder look using the Wacom to bring these all together. You can see the kind of finessing, how big it can get, how many lights you can have in the scene. It just works. Pick the one that you want. Use things like the template material workflow to make broader changes, and then to pick specific lights, change colors, and how you want to do it. It just makes, as Jordan mentioned, you just don't want to go back when you've started doing this. It really is a bit of a game changer when you've start lighting shots and sequences like this.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to actually use the Cintiq with this. All right, so then on to Foresight rendering. So we kind of showed you guys what this was about. We didn't have the option at the time to show you all the extra work that was going on behind the scenes. So Foresight is like a whole, I guess, collection of workflows and features. And so we'll take you a bit through that today.
Yeah, so I guess one of the first questions we usually get would be, what is Katana Foresight? So it's really the combination of a bunch of elements, multiple simultaneous renders. So that idea that you're no longer limited to only having one render going on at a time. Here you can see we're actually looking at 4 different renders from 4 different shots, all being consumed and viewable inside the catalog on the left-hand side. You can flick between them, have a look at them from different angles. And this is a preview render, so it's giving you a really good indication of what that particular lighting looks like across those different shots. Now, we showed you this in the Foundry Live event, and it's one of the many, one of the parts of there, and it's a really big step up, I think, for being able to work on multiple shots at the same time. But what we didn't get to show you is the next thing, which is the ability to have this with live rendering. So one of the reasons that we didn't mention it, it was a bit of a work in progress at the time, but also we weren't sure exactly how far along it was going to be when we got to the 4.0 timeframe, because there's a few things you have to be wary of. You have to turn some things on to make sure that you're ready to use the live rendering, because if you make any changes, it will affect every single one of the shots. It's great when you're doing things like sequence-based lighting or set-based lighting. You want to see what it looks like across a number of different shots. All at the same time, the lighting that you're doing. And here we're doing it with an asset. We're looking at it from different camera angles. You want to tweak the lighting or the look development and see what it looks like across multiple different angles. And it enables you to have that power and that ability to just flick between them all, as you were seeing in that particular render. Another part of this is if you move on and you go to have shots and assets which are really, really heavy, you can also do this remotely, not just using your local machine. This particular asset is very, very heavy. But what we were worried about is, how are you going to consume this? So we've made a few tweaks. We've already shown you some of those with the way that the catalog is updating. That's new. Here, what you're actually seeing as well is the monitor. You can actually look at 2 different renders side by side next to each other at the same time. This enables you to look at maybe multiple different renders at the same time, or you could zoom in on the same render and show how's it looking really close up at his eye, but how's it looking in a wide as well. Gives you total control on how you want to consume those renders, which is really useful whether you're in look development or you're in shot workflow as well. Here we talk about the another one of those features that makes it a lot easier when you're consuming all of this data, and that's the ability in the catalog to have different metadata that is being viewed. So here what we're seeing is both the lighting that's being used and the actual asset is being displayed as metadata in the catalog. All of the different assets are being kicked off, they're being rendered, and you can see exactly what they are. Think of this like it could be shots as well. So you know which one of these shots is not quite right. You could identify it by that metadata straight away. You can also see, you can rescale those catalog entries. They're all updating live. This is all new things that are in 4.0. They weren't there before. It was a static catalog image that would come in live rendering at the end. So all really nice features for enabling you to look at all of those multiple renders that are going on at the same time. And here's another thing that is we've introduced as well. We've got this new submission script that enables you, if you at the very start, I don't know if anyone actually spotted, there was about 5,000 renders if you'd just click preview render at the start there. All of the possible configurations for this particular car would have generated 5,000 renders. Now that would actually be feasible because of the way that Katana works. If you had 5,000 render nodes, you could dispatch those 5,000 renders all to those render jobs. We chose to use 5. It's probably a little bit more sensible in this particular case. We just decided to pick the color of the asset as a way to do it. But just imagine the combinations in look development, or even the combinations in lighting. Imagine you've got lots of different potential light rigs you want to use, and you want to have a look at what it looks like across 25 different shots. You could just put all of that on the farm and consume it and have a look at it straight away inside the catalog. Really, really useful and really, really powerful. Here we are with the same shot. Here, only 1,200 renders now. We're going to reduce that as well. In this case, I think we're just going to reduce it to a much more manageable number, 20 different renders. What we're going to do is we're going to dispatch those. And what we're showing you here is the new Katana queue inside Katana. So that's just for helping you when you're dealing with local renders or things that are on the same network that you've enabled to dispatch render jobs to. Just also provides because this is all going to be provided open source, the way that you actually build these Katana queues, along with an open queue implementation that we've also built to give you a reference for building your own. So if you're using Deadline or Tractor or any of the other big dispatchers out there, you can take this implementation and enable it to go with your particular render farm needs. And here you can see it just all coming back when the renders are done, and just coming straight back into the catalog. Really, really powerful, really, really exciting, and enables our artists. Every time we put this in front of artists, they have a different way that they want to use multiple simultaneous renders and using the network as well. So it's really, really exciting. And I look forward to talking to our customers and hopefully seeing how they decide to use it.
Yeah, so that is, thank you, Gary, the sort of, brief overview of what's in Katana 4. There's a lot more when you start digging through the release notes. So we, of course, got in a lot of bug fixes, feature enhancements, all along the way. We laid the foundation for the Python 3 transition that will come at the beginning of next year. So a lot of hard work by a lot of individuals went into this one. So really then, traditionally, when we get through this, the question is always, what's next? So we just wanted to spend, maybe a couple minutes just giving you an idea of what are the next things that Gary and the team are going to be working on. And then we'll get into sort of quizzing Abel on what it was like to work with all these features, since he was probably the one artist that got to see the most of it before this went live.
Yeah. So what is next for Katana? That's the question that we often get asked. So I did mention some of the current limitations with the way that the live rendering system works. So we're going to remove those limitations. The idea being that you could sit there, you could have 50 shots all streaming back into Katana at the same time, making not just overrides like you can right now that go across all of those 50 shots, but being able to make overrides against a group of those shots, making overrides against individual shots. So you can see you get a coherent picture across a whole sequence, but also being able to make tweaks on an individual basis where you need to. Same could be true for look development when you've got a large number of shots that are using say a new metal material or something like that. If it works for 20 of those assets, you'll be able to see them all next to each other, but then you could make individual tweaks against a few of those and make them in such a way that you can see those individual tweaks without worrying about the limitations that are there with the live rendering system right now. So that's one of the steps forward. Obviously, we have made a lot of progress in Katana 4.0 towards plugging in and improving the way that our Hydra render delegate system works. That's going to get improved. There's going to be improvements in that space moving forward, as well as improving the tool set for exporting and interacting in a round trip of USD with other applications. All exciting things. The way that you consume things inside Katana, the images from that multiple shots. Right now, we showed you the way that the catalog and the monitor has had some improvements as well. We're going to take that to the next level with a metadata-driven system to make it really easy when you do want to have those 50 shots, 25 shots at the same time, make it really good for you, maybe even on a second screen to fill it up with that. All very exciting little bits and pieces. And that's just really scratching the surface at the top. There's a lot of things that I'd like to be able to share with you as well, but we'll give you some, we can't give you everything. We have to have something to talk about with.
Yeah, I'd have to get the digital hook out and start, pulling you off stage at that point. But I also wanted to give a big shout out. Gratitude to our documentation team, to Abel, to the creative specialist team, who worked really hard. Jen outlined that you can find a lot of material at learn.foundry.com/katana, but really there is a lot of great material there. And Abel did a fantastic set of tutorials. Martin there, Ruth, Ariel, everybody has put in a lot of work. So please go check it out. Dive into the features. And like Gary said, this is scratching the surface. Next year, where we're going to be able to take these features, the workflows that we're going to be able to enable are going to make a lot of people smile. So we look forward to that as well. All right, without further ado, let's stop sharing screens and let's quiz the man of the hour, Mr. Abel Vargas. How are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me to work on this release. I think I've identified so closely to everything you guys were saying before, because that relates to my personal experience using Katana. I've worked on the look development of these scenes, but then I recorded the screen doing the work, and then I did the tutorials. And one of the things that I relate the most is just how fun and how hard to go back this is. Because for every lighting setup, I would just delete the gaffer and do it again. So if you look through all the material, it's always a little bit different, just because I was having so much fun doing it again, which is like the last thing I want to do in a shot is just do it again. And I think I remember saying this to you, I was a couple of weeks in, I was like, I can't go back. This is too good. I don't think I remember how 3.6 works anymore, because I was like, okay, this is it. This is how I want to work. So thank you for all this hard work, and this I'm looking forward to work on this on a sequence in the near future, hopefully.
Well, it was a pleasure working with you, and the features themselves, like you said, when the guys started giving us the first prototypes, it was definitely. I set out the challenge of make a 3-point light rig the old way, make a 3-point light rig the new way. Yeah, no, you can't go back. Well, what I wanted to highlight is that the real important thing is the dialogue that each of you has with Foundry, your Foundry representatives, the forums, the Discord. Keep it up, because we solve these problems. We bring these things out because you guys tell us what is slowing you down. Nobody got into computer graphics to sit and wait for a computer or to do things the hard way. We all have a creative itch that we're trying to scratch. And, so getting the cruft of the workflow out of the way is something that we can do for you. And as computers get faster, and we're now reaching the point where Katana is scaling out across a network of machines. And so that unlocks a huge level of potential for everything. If you imagine in the future the kind of things that could be done, if you could be live rendering your foreground, your character, your shadow pass, your background, all at the same time, there might be some interesting things that happen because of that. Scalability, being able to render multiple tiles of an image, and the feature that Gary mentioned that we're kind of calling Render Hub in the future, that being able to stitch those back together. People have brought up all, like Gary said, can I do this? Can I do that? And these are the things that inspire us and that keep us going.
Yeah, just to get a little point in there, I feel like you said something that I really appreciate, which is like having working faster and having a balanced work life, right? So you want to go in and do our work. On the company side, what I see is if you're saving artists time, you are saving so many resources. It's not only about us going home early, it's about getting iterations faster. It's about just being able to produce more. And I think when we're working, and especially when I was working on these sequences, just doing sequence level changes to all those 5 shots in one go. There's so much value into this, because naturally we would send a frame to the farm or send multiple frames, wait that to come back. But when you're working a sequence, if you're doing a sequence lighting, for example, this is so good. And even if we have to stay late, we're staying late to be productive and not waiting for going through the hoops of many softwares. So this is very good.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because one of the things I think we didn't actually mention is things like the dispatch tool that you pop up and you dispatch and send off multiple renders at the same time, is that can be across multiple frames as well. So the idea being that when I used to work in lighting, one of the things you get your lighting approved on is often things like first, middle, last. And often when you're doing your initial lighting, you're only really doing it on one frame. You don't get to see the first, middle, last until tomorrow. That's the thing that is always a little bit later. But when you start having access to the render farm or multiple machines to do this kind of interactive lighting, being able to do it on first, middle, last, across the shots that you care about, all at the same time and consuming it at the same time. There's no surprises the next day in dailies. You have confidence. You're not worried when you go home at the end of the day if you are of a nervous disposition. So it just gives you that confidence, and it's a really nice feeling to be able to
totally agree.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So I will encourage everybody, please, if you've got questions for Gary, Abel, or myself, put them into the questions tab. We'll either type in some answers or we will try and answer them live. So let's take one here. So Arvid, hey Arvid, asks, is Hydra capable of showing production look dev / shot scenes with TX text files, UDIMs, and texture sets with more than 20 gigabytes? So UDIM support, yes. Text support or RenderMan TX support depends on the Hydra library. 20 gigs, if you've got a 24 gig graphics card, then you're probably in luck. We have some thoughts on how we can stream more sort of Mari-esque ways to the viewport. But as of right now, you wouldn't be able to then sort of take everything and throw it out there. We've put in some controls for optimizing the use of the viewport to try and keep that in, because of course, once we start making it more robust or more complex, we know that we're going to start hammering people's systems in ways that they weren't used to. Okay.
If I can just add something to that as well.
Please do.
If we're also looking at tools inside Mari for the interop, for when you're doing things inside Mari that you're going to be consuming inside Katana, the ability to export things that are going to be for your USD preview surface, for how you consume things inside the viewer, but also for how you do it for render. So imagine you're doing a 4K full 32-bit textures that's going to be your final renders, but also having an 8-bit 1K version that's going to go into consuming there inside your viewer. And because of the way that Katana works, it's always enabled you to do look development for multiple renders at the same time. And your consumption inside the Hydra viewer as a USD preview surface-based workflow is just another render as far as the look dev process is concerned. So you can easily have those going along together. So imagine you shouldn't have to load 24 gigs if what you're trying to do is a GL-based render. Have 1K proxies of it. Have 512, 512 proxies of it. It's up to you how you want to do it. And of course, because of the way that Katana works with deferred loading and all of that, you get to decide when you expand and send things to the viewer. So even if you potentially, if you expand everything, have 64 gigs worth of textures, it's up to you on whether you actually care about seeing all of those. And that's to do with the artist's power to be able to control that too. So
and I actually have done that on these shots. I have, because on the GL, I use it to be able to preview where the light is, the shadow is. I don't need a 20 gigabyte texture to inform me of those decisions, right? So I actually scale down just to have like a quick preview. They are still great quality because we're not seeing this 4K on the GL monitor. So you're seeing this almost the same quality and it's still being able to work very easily. So I've done that myself. So anyone can do it.
Okay, so there's a few questions that are all about how does Foresight work and what are the implications. So I'll start really quickly with the question about is it possible to let Tractor and Deadline manage the live network renders? The answer is absolutely. So Katana Q is that system is a farm plugin and speaks to the same APIs that Tractor or Deadline, and we ship an OpenQ example, can be connected to. So you can submit something through these APIs to then have the render resource managed by your normal render farm system. And then that will then receive all the instructions to set up this remote process, which will then stream the pixels back to your Katana session. So absolutely, we've seen clients actually using this on their render farms and streaming the pixels back. So it's absolutely completely doable and was part of the design. In terms of the heft and what does it mean, it really is going to be varying. So if you already have a single asset or a single shot that brings your machine to its knees, anyone that's sort of questioning, will I be able to do two? You're absolutely right. You're not going to be able to do. That's why we did set this up so that it can be expanded to multiple remote machines. So this is about being able to use Katana more like a command center and then marshal multiple machines to get you the feedback that you want. If you're working on a lighter weight asset, we have a lot of clients in the TV episodic market. So if you're doing things that aren't sort of the Transformers-esque 80 gigs of texture maps and multiple gigs of geometry per asset, then you might be able to fit that on. We're waiting for feedback from various clients that have started looking at these massive scalable Intel and AMD chipsets. What does this really mean for them? There's a lot of opportunities where either through cloud resources or highly scalable modern hardware or bleeding edge hardware, and trying to be having this system ready for those people. So it is going to vary based on those things. And there is the additional consideration that if you do use remote machines, that's a separate Katana render license and that's a separate render vendor license. So there's logistics to it, but it's really comes down to if you can still get that feedback and you set up a quarantine set of machines that are allocated for an artist during the day, you can increase that artist efficiency and then make better use of your render farm. It's about making sure that when you do use your render farm, because we can't do a lot to influence render time, and it's up to the render vendors to drive down or speed up the render engines. So we can't influence that. But what we can influence is how sure are you that when you hit that render button, that you're going to get back the result that you want and you need. I hope that answers all the range of questions there. Sorry, just going through all the various questions. So Abel, while I'm doing that, what would you say is can you pick one thing that was your favorite thing in Katana 4, first off?
Oh yeah, shift click with the light positions, with the normals and reflection. I love placing the reflections, and I was glad it was a robot. It was a metallic thing, so I just could. It's so magical, and I feel like because whenever we're placing a light, say I'm placing key light, I can look through the light and kind of place it okay, but the reflection is always hard because you have to get that glancing angle. So it's a lot of little fiddling and just move it down, rotate. So I see there. And once you can just click and have it there, it's so great. So I think like that's my favorite one. Like shift clicking and having that in place is just the best. So I think like that's my number one thing. And I speak as an artist. So whenever I can get my lights in place, the fastest and the most accurate, the happier I am. So I think like this release really, really brings that home.
Awesome. Let's see. I'm just going through more of the questions. Someone asked, is the scene expansion time better than the last version? Yeah, if you are referring to anything before Katana 3.5, absolutely. There was a huge amount of work that went into multi-threading in Katana 3.5. So people are seeing a lot of benefits from that. Okay, then, sorry, just going through these. Gary, feel free to pick up.
Well, I'll let you have a look for another question, but there was something else that I didn't mention that was came to my mind was one of the other use cases for the Katana queue that a lot of people don't realize is you can set it up to only have one agent on your local machine. So if you're like me and you have meetings, whether it be daily sessions, whether it be some sort of sequence dailies or whatever you're having, you can set up that you've got multiple renders queued up. So when you go to dailies on your local machine, because that might be the only machine you have access and control to, you can say, I want to have my character done first, then my background, and then another asset that's in the as well. And then when you come back, it'll execute one, then it'll execute the next, and then so you get that local queuing system. It's just another way that people are thinking of using the new tools that we got there. And it was one of those things that wasn't particularly necessarily what we set out to with these tools. It's just once you start putting them in front of clients, it's great to see the ideas that people have with them.
Okay, I'm just trying to there's a lot of sort of just nitty-gritty technical questions.
I can answer there's one here about USD in 1911. So Katana 4.0 is on 1911 as well as our previous releases. One of the reasons it's on 1911 is because of VFX reference platform. The libraries that USD uses, the latest versions, 2008, 2011, they use libraries that Katana, or more modern versions of libraries that Katana has internally. Our next release that we'll be working on will be updating the library as well. So the VFX reference platform, so that you will be able to get more recent versions of USD. And that's a point whereby we'll really be bringing to fruition some of the work that we've done in 4.0 for making render delegates better to, easier for us to plug in at later points. So yeah, it's a good question. We are still on 1911, but we will be moving forward, and we've laid a lot of groundwork for that in the next big version of Katana.
Okay. So let's see, keeping these coming. So someone asks, are there any benefits from working in Katana and Nuke workflow-wise? I'd say that both of them being node graph based, both being procedural, both having that sort of non-destructive workflows, there's absolutely benefits, but I'll actually defer to Abel on this because I think you have the most recent production experience with that.
Okay, let's repeat the question so I know I got it.
So Hiram asks, are there any benefits to working in Katana and Nuke workflow-wise? So what's the benefit of those two tools together?
Well, I feel like those are my standard tools. So it's hard for me to to judge which other tools you're working with, but that's my go-to setup. So I think Nuke works amazing for what it does, and Katana does it as well. I don't know about some specific integration that we have from Nuke. I just render my EXRs and import it in Nuke, and it's just use my usual workflow. I don't know, and this is probably a question for you guys, if you have plans of doing something related to what you're doing with Mari, going back to Mari from LookDev and going forward to Nuke. I don't think it's necessarily important. I have my EXRs in there, so it's the same workflow, but it's the only workflow I actually use, so it's hard for me.
Well, I think, some of the other sides of it you can look at is that Nuke has the best color pipeline, most accurate color pipeline.
Oh yeah. Totally.
And so if you want to engage in an ACES CG workflow, check out Arvid's channel if you haven't done so already. Check out the Discord. A lot of great tips in there about how to basically start getting up to speed on ACES, and you need a tool like Nuke to really make the most of those.
Yeah, and I think I take it for granted because I work with ACES and I see the same results from Katana back to Nuke. So I think because I have this so oiled up in my pipeline, I don't think I even question it.
Okay, I'm just going to double check, see where we're doing on the questions. Okay.
Another quick one for Katana and Nuke is naming. One of the great things about Katana when you set up a sequence-based workflow is you can set out all of your passes, and the naming structure of it will be consistent across the entire show, sequence, whatever you like. And that makes making compositions that work across entire sequences really consistent and easy to use. So that's how a real synergy when you stop. It's basically pipelining. It's pipelining the naming of all of your AOVs, all of your passes. So when you start bringing them into, moving them downstream to your compa, they're not getting inconsistent naming, which is what can happen when you have to set up your renders different every single time in other applications. Sorry, Jordan, if you...
No, I'm just scanning all the best ones, trying to get a range of different answers for everybody.
Oh, and I think Gary brought this point, and it's really important, because when you're working with Katana and one lighter can work on the multiple shots that they can, you have consistency going to comp. And I feel like the less you have to split logical shots that should be together, it should be the same artist doing, the more consistency you have in your Nuke scripts, and you can spread that into multiple compositors and still have the same passes always working, and just having different versions with the shot naming. So I think Katana brings this very serious pipeline work that every company should think of, and not only not working with Katana, but I think Katana kind of makes a company ask these serious questions about how can we work in volume, and how these all work together all the way through comp. And I think Katana brings healthy questions to any pipeline, just how to organize this and prepare for success, which is my webinar. I'm plugging in my webinar from Foundry. I did a while ago.
It was a great webinar, Abel. Okay, I'm just checking. So folks asking about Nuke and Katana, definitely something that we want to explore. Nothing that we can say about that right now. And let's see if there are other questions. MacOS, no plans for a Mac port at this moment in time. And that, I think, kind of covers most of the things. When it comes to our USD plans and the expansion, all the devil of the details of purposes and the versions and import and export, that's going to expand over time. But our stated position on that is that we're definitely very committed to making sure that Katana is part of the round trip ecosystem with USD, because there's a lot of value for everybody, and there's a lot of interesting things that we can do with Foundry applications with that. So definitely it's a watch this space kind of thing. Okay, I think we kind of covered the cross section of everything, and we're kind of up to the time. Gary, any last sort of thoughts?
Um, I don't want you to start pulling me off the stage if I start shouting about all of the awesome things we've got planned for next year. But I just think it's never been a better time to be in lighting than right now. I think the industry is, and especially, I'd like to say especially us, but it's a really fantastic time to be in lighting. The power that one artist can have to render entire sequences, to have real ownership over a whole block of a film or a TV series, I think is unprecedented in these times. I think that Katana's story for next year, the things that we have planned, I'm super proud because I started with Katana 1.0 before I went out into a VFX world. So really seeing the push that we're doing now for the artist and knowing what we have planned for next year, especially the things I'm not allowed to talk about, I think is really, really exciting. And I just kind of wish that I was back in partly in the production world, using the tools to actually do the lighting. So I get to be envious of Abel actually getting to use Katana, and even more so knowing what's coming next year. So I hope that will get everyone else excited as well.
I completely agree. I remember when I started lighting in the industry, I would go on the weekends to update cameras and send to the farm and update render frames. And it was it. That was my life. I spent 80% of my time just working pipeline. I wasn't even lighting. So, and here we are 10 years later and working with Katana, and especially with this Katana 4 now. And I can't give props enough to Foundry to really focusing on this artist side. And I know how powerful Katana is on the pipeline, but this is a great jump in how we work. And I'm really looking forward to jumping on Katana 4 in production as soon as possible.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to hearing about it. All right. In terms of final thoughts for me, I think it's keep, like I said before, keep telling us your problems. Keep bringing up what are the things that basically keep you at the computer longer than you should be. We all know that you do hit a point, and all those late nights, and you come back the next morning, and you look at the work, and you basically redo a big chunk of it in the first 30 minutes the next day, because you have that fresh view of the world. You've got fresh eyes. So whatever your problems are, bring them to us so that we can, basically give you the solutions. And one of our jobs is to listen to all of you, find out what are the, not about individual problems. I mean, we want to hear all the individual problems, but our job is to collect all the individual problems and actually bring some sense to them, and then deliver you something that you didn't know you needed. And that's what people have told us that we've done with Katana 4, and it's what we want to do again with the next version. So please, be communicative, and we look forward to giving you more tools. And with that, thank you very much, and we'll spend some time answering questions in the text form. But without further ado, everybody have a great night, great morning, great afternoon, wherever you want.